Good morning, everyone. This morning I'd like to tell you a little angel story. It's an experience that our fiance Frank had and he shared with me. And when he did, we realised it was for both of us. A little bit of background. At the time this happened, I was recovering from 2 10-hour surgeries in the space of a week. I'd come home and wasn't very well at all. At the end of that, the month I was at home, I had gotten worse and worse. I ended up back in hospital where they discovered I had a superbug infection. It was the type of E. coli that would only respond to one antibiotic that had to be administered 4 times a day intravenously. So I had to have it in hospital. I had to have that for a month. And then I had to stay in hospital for an extra week with oral antibiotics just to make sure it didn't come back. And I was on those other antibiotics for 6 weeks after I came out of hospital. Anyway, I digress. While I was at home, about a week before I had to go back into hospital, I was probably at the lowest point I'd ever been in my life. I was actually heading for a breakdown, which happened when I was in hospital. This was due to a combination of side effects from drugs I was on, prescribed drugs at that time, pregabalin and Zomorph. My cognitive function and my memory had become so bad. My doctor had previously had me tested for dementia. Turns out afterwards, after it took me 2 years to wean myself off both those drugs, that it was the side effects of the drugs. My full cognitive function still hasn't come back. My memory isn't as bad as it was, but it is still shocking. So excuse me if I refer to some notes here. That's a little bit of background to the story. Frank had come up to visit me the day this experience happened. Now, he lives about 45 miles away on Teesside. I rang him and asked him, would he pick me some always discreet pads up, incontinence pads that I needed to use at the time, on his way up? And he said, yeah, sure, no problem. So he went to Boots on Teesside Park, near where he lives, and he'd gone in and realised he didn't have a clue what he was looking for or where to look for it. He managed to find the aisle these items were on, and he was standing, he said, just staring aimlessly because he didn't have a clue. He said, and this little bird-like woman came tottering along the aisle. He says that she looked really strange because he says, when you see birds sort of tottering along, he said that's why he said she was bird-like, because he said she actually looked as if she wasn't used to walking on legs. And she come up and she said, hello. Frank said, hello. She said, I've been waiting for you. And Frank said, he just looked at her as if she'd lost her mind. And he said, have you really? And she says, yes. She says, everything's going to be all right. She says, but how can I help you now? And he explained what he needed. She helped him get the right ones. And when he took her to on the way back to the till, he said he was explaining that I was quite ill. And she said, yes. She says, tell her I've been praying for her and will pray for her, and not to worry, everything will turn out all right. Frank got his stuff and he sort of dismissed her as a bit of an oddball. And he said it wasn't until he opened the car door and sat in the car, he said to himself, you've just met an angel. And his immediate reaction was, off. He says, you're just being an idiot. But he said when he looked in the mirror, he didn't realise there's tears streaming down his face. And he said he's never felt that emotional in his life. And now Frank is the most sceptical person you would ever wish to meet. He knows about the experiences I've had. So he's embraced my weirdness, but it's the first real experience he's had in his own right. When he came home and told me about it, I felt as emotional as he did. I've got goosebumps now, and I can still feel that same wave of emotion every time I tell that story. Now, that happened 8 years ago, and it still feels as real today as it did then. At the time, I was so down and so worried and so stressed. I had been speaking out to my spirit guides and helpers and saying, please help me, please give me validation. I really need to know I'm going to come through this. Frank had this experience. And that little angel lady was right. Everything did turn out fine. Considering that I was a lot more ill at the time than I thought I was, I'm just so thankful for that experience, and I'm so thankful that I'm here now and willing and happy to share it with you. I've had so many experiences in my life, so many synchronicities. Some of them I didn't realise until I look back and see how they brought me from one point to another. I'd like to explore that more in future videos. But I hope my story, small though it is, inspires you to reach out and get to know your guardian angel. Thank you. Bless you. Bye.